I've been waiting all day for this. Baron, my handsome man. Hi, human. Hey, babe. You ready? All right. Let's roll it.
Oh, hello, everybody. Thank you for coming back again for another episode of Soul Sense. And today I'm really excited because we have a very inspirational woman, not only within the city of Kingston, the community of Kingston, but within the yoga community and just as a human being. So today joining us is Lauren, who is the founder, owner of Yoga Academy International, but who's also a local Kingstonian. So due to COVID, I guess we've had you sort of grace the presence of our city for the last few months. So, how are you? And good morning, good afternoon.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm great. We were just chatting about this. Like, it feels really nice to be grounded, and COVID has been a blessing for me because I've been spending a lot more time in Kingston and just enjoying the city, like the waterfront and biking and the quiet. It's lovely.
It's a quiet, but actually in saying that, I went for a walk yesterday in Kingston, and the students are coming back. So have you noticed downtown that it is, because you also live downtown, as do I, but that things are starting to get a little bit busier now?
Yeah.
And how does that make you feel? Because I was out yesterday, and I actually had full-blown anxiety attack when I went to walk down Princess Street and had to boycott it and go an opposite direction.
Well, I don't walk down Princess that much unless I have an intention of like being in the city. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go. I also grew up in Montreal, right? So I'm used to a big city. I'm used to a city that's like people-y. And to be honest, Ontarians are a lot more polite than Montrealers. And so it's actually not bad. Like, people are super nice. But I noticed there's boats in the marina now. People are starting to come by from other spots. Which made me kind of happy because it means that things are opening up, and I'm really excited for the farmers market to come back downtown.
Yeah.
I love that market. I also volunteer and sell flowers with one of the florists there on the weekends. If anybody is at the market, come say hi. I'm with Gonzalo usually, who sells honey, and I make flower bouquets, and that makes me really happy to just
I love that
today and chit chat. So I'm excited. What I will say that's giving me a little bit of anxiety is I live downtown and I live very close to the market, and it's been so nice having zero events because I hear them all the time, especially like movies in the square.
Oh yeah.
The square makes sleeping very difficult because sometimes the movies end at 11 and frankly, I want to go to bed at 10.
I love that. 10's like a perfect like downtime moment. But being downtown right now, I'm watching things fire back up, even given the situation of COVID and the pandemic. None of that makes you nervous right now, or are you still sort of like heightened with concern, or are you just really welcoming of everything as it's happening?
Do you mean nervous for my health?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is a very unpopular opinion. I apologize if I'm going to offend anybody.
Oh.
But I'm like a little bit of a Darwinist, and I'm just thinking, let's just let this run its course because this pandemic is not going to end and the virus is not going to end until it runs its course. And the only way it's going to run its course is if we are out and about. And that does unfortunately mean some people are going to get sick, but it also means that this will be over more quickly. I mean, there's two ways of combating this. One is isolation, which we've been doing, and to see if it dies out that way. But the other way is just letting it run its course. I mean, in the course of human history, there have been plagues, right? There's been the Spanish flu, there's been the plague, there's been illness, and it's just a natural occurrence that happens. And obviously, I don't want anybody I love to be ill, and I don't want anybody I love to pass away, but it is a fact of life that sometimes people get sick and sometimes they die, and obviously it's scary to overwhelm the healthcare system, etc. But I also feel like we have to live our lives. Mm-hmm. And I know it's a very unpopular opinion, and so I apologize for offending.
I don't think it's an unpopular opinion. I think we do actually need to live our lives. I guess the one it's more of just what we're doing when we're out. I think for me, like, I understand I need to be out. I understand I need to be living and doing things. I'm the kid that still wears masks and gloves when I go out, and I do those things more because I have people in my life who depend on me that, like you said, I don't want to get sick or I don't want to take the chance of bringing something back to. But I guess what I've noticed is that a lot of people are kind of COVID fatigued, and we're not really sort of worried about those things anymore as much. I think that's where my anxiety comes from, like acceptance of this new phase of what it is. But I do love your approach to that.
I think it also makes a difference, and this is probably a little bit selfish. Like, I'm not in the vulnerable population. I do have a good immune system. I am healthy. I am young. And my family doesn't live in Kingston, right? So I am pretty well isolated anyways. And
Right.
human interaction comes from things like going to the market and chatting with people, or walking my dog and saying hi to people on the street. And so that's a big difference. I may feel differently had I been in Montreal, where, my parents are older and I would be at risk of infecting them.
Mm.
The truth is, in Kingston, I'm pretty careful about washing my hands and disinfecting. And then I come home and I'm alone.
Right.
Not seeing anybody who is vulnerable. So that's a difference too for me.
So different stuff. So then let's kind of look at, because you were away when we kind of got this sort of global lockdown and all of the things that were happening, and you had to come back to Canada, back to Kingston to be here. But you also went through the process of testing, and you had the COVID test. What was that like as someone who's been through that process, and what was the waiting process like to find out your results as well?
Okay, so yeah, COVID, the global pandemic was declared when I was in Nicaragua, and yeah, we decided to finish out the teacher training and come back. And it was really odd because my school in Nicaragua is completely isolated. We are on 100 acres on basically the top of a mountain that overlooks the ocean. So nobody was sick. We're completely not afraid. Most of our food comes from like a local fisherman or a local farmer. So we knew we had a lot of access to food, and we weren't going to be taking food away or resources away from people who needed it. In fact, we would still be able to give jobs and help the community by, continuing to eat the fish that was from the fishermen, or continuing to buy the eggs from the farm. And so, yeah, so it was like strange because we're like, why don't we just stay here? This is like paradise. We have everything we need. We're totally socially isolated. We don't have to worry about getting sick. And then ultimately it was civic duty that made me feel like I have to come home, because Nicaragua is not equipped. And if people were to get sick there, or if I was to get sick there, it's like, okay, as a Westerner, I can pay for the privilege of going to the hospital in Nicaragua, but that's not really fair in a country where most people don't have that opportunity. And also, I knew that if I couldn't work, I would need government assistance. And it's not really fair to accept government assistance when I'm like living on the beach and surfing every day. Right. On top of that, my grandmother was in the hospital, and, I knew that if something happened to her, she's in her 90s, if something happened to her, there would be no funeral. There was no visitors. My mother would not be able to grieve in a way that would help her move on. And so I also felt like if something was to happen, I want to be home so I could support my mom and my grandmother. So those were the reasons I came back. And this was before the airport closed. And then I got back, and a week later, the airport closed. So I got back, and I had been sick already. So also, I think one of the reasons that I'm not afraid of COVID, I think I already had it.
Okay.
So I was sick like right when I got to Nicaragua. I think I got sick like in Canada or on the way. I'm not sure. I was sick for like 2 weeks. I had most of the signs and symptoms of COVID, like fever, coughing, achy, all the things. And then I got better, and I did isolate myself when I was sick and when I was there, because I didn't want to infect anyone. And then I had a training. So I was actually like on the mend, and then I had my training, and we took a lot of precautions during the training. Like everybody would plate their own, all the food was plated rather than buffet. We had like alcohol spray at strategic locations, hand sanitizer at strategic locations. Nobody was sharing mats. We did no physical adjustments. We were very careful. Everybody washed their own dishes, so we weren't sharing. We were very careful. We socially distanced by like spreading out tables, etc. So as not to infect anyone. And then I came back, and because I had been sick, I wanted to get tested again, like civic duty. I want to know where I stand here.
Right.
And I flew into Montreal, And it was interesting because Montreal's still like kind of the epicenter of COVID in Canada, and Montreal was like scary. Like, first of all, traveling during the time of COVID was actually a pleasure because the airports were so quiet.
I like that.
I flew into Miami and no one there, and I'm like, this is great. But as soon as I landed in Montreal, it was a bit freaky deaky because I had no experience with COVID yet. And people were very anxious and very nervous. The border agents were nervous. There was, like splash screens and lines. You have to stand 2 meters away. And that's when it started to hit me like, oh, there's like shit's going down here. Can I swear?
Yeah, you can swear all you want.
That was a bit nerve-wracking. And then I arrived late at night. So I slept the night at my mom's house and then drove to Kingston the next day. So when I slept the night at my mom's house, my mom had left me hand sanitizer, gloves, and a mask in the garage. And so she was like, okay, you come in, you go through the garage, you put on your mask and your gloves, your hand sanitizer, go directly to the basement where you're sleeping, and then leave in the morning. Like, and that's when I realized, like, hey, this is a serious thing. Also, she was still taking care of her ailing parents, and so she didn't want to be exposed at all. And so I realized, like, okay, I said to her, as soon as I get back, I'm going to get tested, and I'll let you know, also for peace of mind for my parents, Obviously, we're disinfecting things as we go, but we want to be careful. So yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking. But then I got to Kingston, and Kingston was like quiet. I think we're very fortunate here that COVID didn't hit hard. Yeah. And in general, I think this city is just really peaceful. That's why I love it here. It's quiet and peaceful, and people are very polite and very kind. And so I went to the Memorial Center to get tested. There was nobody there. They said that I came at a good time. I just drove right there because I told my mom I was going to get tested, and I have to get tested in Ontario because I'm an Ontario resident. So I drove right to the Memorial Center, and I was the only person there, which was great. But it was weird. They said I came at a good time because earlier there was so busy, but it was strange because people were in essentially hazmat suits and splash guards, and that's when it really hit me. Like, there's something very serious going on here. But I had to self-isolate anyway for 14 days. So waiting to get tested, I was sure I had COVID, to be honest, because of being sick in Nicaragua prior. And then you have to wait the 3 days, and it was nerve-wracking because I just didn't know if I'd infected anyone on the way. And if I did, I think it's probably, finding out you have like, I'm not going to say this. But yeah, I was like, I have to call everybody I know where you were going with that. I've never had the other experience, thankfully, knock on wood. I've never had that.
You have to call everybody.
So I've never had other experience, but thankfully, I was like, okay, well, who have I talked to? And I was like, this is going to be so embarrassing. Like, if I have COVID, I'm going to have to tell all my students from that teacher training that they need to be tested. And that's super irresponsible when we were so careful. Well, I did not have to be tested negative. And let me tell you, sweet relief.
I bet. It's funny because then a couple of things, even in you saying that. So as a yoga teacher, as a studio owner, as someone who is in the wellness industry, I feel like in a realistic way, am prepared for the changes that are coming in our industry. I feel like things are going to change in the way that we hold classes, how we teach classes, how we go to a gym is going to change, or a spin studio, or those things in the next little while. What do you think are going to be some of the biggest developments that we're going to go through from a teacher's point of view, moving forward, teaching classes and, your teacher trainings and different things before we have a vaccine? Because life can't actually ultimately continue to stop. We have to continue to fire up the machines and work everything. But how does that change things for you and how you run your business right now?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things, some good and some not so good, that are happening. First of all, I'm seeing all yoga teachers go on Zoom right now, which is nice that they're still engaging with their community. But I also feel like there's so much noise in this space. People have asked me, like, how come you're not running Zoom classes? I am running private Zoom classes for people that are hiring me, but I don't want to be more noise in a space where everybody's suddenly on Zoom and it feels very competitive and kind of yucky. If I have something wonderful to offer, then I will. But I also already have an online yoga studio, like Netflix, but yoga. So I'm trying to direct people to there and trying to upload great content to my yoga studio rather than just do like the Zoom classes, because it's not my thing. Like, I don't I don't love teaching on Zoom. Like I said, I'm doing it privately now. And it just feels too impersonal. I like to engage with my students, and I know that part of my kind of brand and the nuance is being there and feeling the community and chit-chatting and laughing and storytelling and all that. So the Yoga Alliance has allowed online teacher trainings to happen. And I have felt a little bit of pressure to do these online teacher trainings, and I thought about it. And the only teacher training I would do online right now is the children's yoga teacher training, because it is an easy one to put online, and there's also no anatomical component to it because, you know, kids are so bendy. Oh, hello.
He just pops up every once in a while. He's keeping my feet warm.
Yeah, kids are like so bendy. We only do it for children under 12, so prepubescent, and they're so bendy and malleable that you actually don't need to worry about them getting super hurt in yoga, right? It's not like gymnastics or anything. So we don't need to worry about them getting super hurt. So you don't have to do like an anatomical component. Also, the anatomy of children between age 3 to 12, it's extremely different. So
Noodly. They just like noodles. They just do whatever they want. Yeah.
Exactly. And so that was the only one I was willing to put online. And then I did some really serious thinking about it, and I was like, I just don't want to. I don't want to make people sit in front of a screen for 8 hours a day, which is what that would entail. And then like homework, but also a big part of these teacher training experiences is community, is feeling the vibe of being together and being silly together. And kirtan, I love singing, and the music of yoga and bhakti. That's a big part of my life, and it's part of my trainings. And so to lose that element, like making people sing into a screen, it's just not conducive to me, to learning the lifestyle of yoga. And all of my teacher trainings and all of my classes, what is very important in my values to put across is that asana, like physical postures, is 1/8 of the practice of yoga. This practice is so broad, and it's a guideline for how you can live in a state of wellness. And so to offer something on Zoom where we lose the community aspect and where we lose the connection is not effectively putting across the values of my school. So I've opted not to do online trainings for now. I can do online, certainly online continuing education, and we have plenty of online continuing education at Yoga Academy online, but I'm kind of in the waiting and seeing, which is scary because I don't know when I'm going to be able to go back to trainings. And obviously, teacher trainings is how I earn my living. So if I don't go back to training soon, I'm either going to have to go online or find a new job.
Right.
So that's challenging. But I also just want to say, like, in terms of teaching classes, I think something good might come out of this, which is less physical adjustments. And the truth is, like, there's been so much scandal in the yoga industry as of late because what's appropriate to touch someone and how to touch someone physically. And frankly, do we even need to touch our students at all? Is it so important to be helped in that back end so you can go further? Maybe, but maybe not. Like, certainly I've received incredible physical adjustments that have helped my practice, but also maybe this will help us learn that we don't have to be so physically touchy-feely in yoga. That's actually not written in the sutra, like thou shalt touch your students. And maybe it'll also reduce a lot of the scandal in the industry, which I think could be a good thing.
It's funny. I never thought about it from that perspective. So I appreciate that. I think of, so when I do hands-on with students or ever, if that's what it was actually never a physical adjustment or correction for me. I was always the teacher that it was just like a gentle touch or a push or a rub or something that just was a connection of person to person. And that's where, the idea of not being able to do that as it's part of my teaching is good touch, right? And also sharing with people what good touch can be. It's one of those things where I've often thought, can I teach without that? And I know that I can, but do I want to? But then also the idea of being in a room now where if I look at, Soul Academy, the studio, where we could fit maybe 6 people socially distanced in one space for one class. So thinking of those numbers, you go from classes where maybe you'd have 20 people where now we're looking at numbers of 4 and 5, and looking at the brick and mortar models of studios, and are these going to be feasible things for people to continue doing and going to? So those are also some really big questions that I find are popping up. And then as a student, am I ready to run back into a class? You know, would you feel comfortable as just a student, if you were just Lauren the student and a yoga studio was opening up, but it required us to be socially distant and possibly wear masks? And does that change the dynamic of practice for you? What is that feeling that comes with that?
That's a really good point, a really good question too. I would not practice yoga in a mask because I don't want to be fearful in my life. I don't want to live in fear. Would I run to a yoga studio to practice socially distanced right now? Absolutely. Would I run to a studio to practice non-socially distanced right now? Absolutely. Again, I'm kind of Darwinist, and I think that we have to live our lives, but I also feel that, you know, for each person, if you have symptoms, if you're ill, it is your responsibility to stay home. And again, civic duty, like protect those around you by being smart about your health and by being conscious. But again, like, you know, people can carry this and not know.
Yeah.
I think it's a very challenging time. And I think there's a lot of ethical questions that are happening right now. But again, like, I just want to live my life. Mm-hmm. But that's easy for me to say when I don't have a compromised immune system and I'm only 35 years old and I'm healthy.
Right. Right. And it's trying to see it from other ways. And I think that also that's been one of the biggest challenges, you know, for me, kind of trying to navigate where this is going, but then also just stepping back and asking myself from a human standpoint how I feel and how I would feel going and making those moves and doing those things. One thing that you and I chatted about before we started recording, and I actually feel very wholehearted about this as well. And one of the reasons we didn't do it was Soul Academy didn't rush out to start offering free classes and free content to people when the pandemic happened. I think it's beautiful to all of the studios, teachers, people who did. I think there was a need to want to continue to support people's wellness in this time of uncertainty. But what it also did was it took away the value of what it is that we do. I feel like it added value in some way, but it took value away from what we were doing. And as someone who was trying to, you know, offer a class for a monetary value or a way to support our own selves, we really almost didn't stand a chance because all the free stuff flooded to the top. And there was this amazing offering that I also didn't want to be a part of. I didn't want to be fighting for what that was. It's one of the reasons we decided to create this sort of talk show, was to create a platform of free content for people that was different from what everyone else was doing. But I know that you have a bit of a feeling on that, and how all of this free content that's flooding is actually taking away from the value of what it is that we can offer as teachers.
I agree.
Yeah.
So first of all, I commend you. Bravo. I also want to say this talk show is very cool. And let us remember that this is still yoga. Self-study is yoga, right? Yeah. Swadhyaya, like, that is yoga. And education and learning and mindfulness is yoga. So this talk show is yoga, and it is offering yoga for free in a way. It's not offering asana, physical classes, postures for free. And yeah, I agree. Like, it dilutes our industry and our profession when we start giving things away for free, and it devalues what we do. And I also am not really a proponent for giving away free classes. We were just chatting about this. Like, I don't know why yoga teachers harp on other yoga teachers if they don't teach for free. Where in the Yoga Sutra does it say, thou shalt teach free yoga classes? And there are so many ways to be charitable. And doing my job for free is not one of the ways that I necessarily have to be charitable, because I find if I teach too much for free, and I have taught plenty of free classes, don't get me wrong. And let's say, like, if there is, like, I remember recently, like, the Humane Society asked me to teach, I think it was like yoga with bunnies. Unfortunately, due to COVID, it didn't happen. And it was like to adopt bunnies. And they're like, will you teach a free class, like yoga with bunnies? I'm like, absolutely. This is a cause I care about. Sure, I'd love to teach this class for free. But I also feel like we don't need to just rise up and offer what we have for free, because again, it makes our work less valuable, but also there are so many ways to be charitable, and there are so many ways to volunteer your time or to give back. And doing my job for free doesn't have to be the way that I do that. And I don't have to yell and scream and publicly say, hey, I'm giving this away or I'm doing this for free to know that I am charitable. Like, I am comfortable at the end of the day with my contributions to society, and I donate my time in all kinds of different ways. And when I'm able to, I donate funds in different ways to causes I care about. And I'm really happy with the way that I am charitable. And I'm very happy with the way that I give back. And I don't feel that doing my job for free is one of those ways that I have to do that. And if that makes me look like a bad yoga teacher or a non-generous yoga teacher on the outside, like, okay, I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable with that because I know on the inside that I'm philanthropic. And
that's beautiful.
Thank you. And yeah, it upsets me sometimes when we feel this pressure as a yoga teacher to give away for free or do our job for free. It doesn't make us less spiritual. We choose not to.
I actually think it connects us more to our true self to be able to say, this actually doesn't line up with me because my time is also valuable. What I'm giving to myself is valuable. And I think it takes more to say, I'm actually okay not doing this and offering that in this way. And in saying that, I don't want to take away from anyone who is offering those things. I think it's beautiful that we do that. It just doesn't align with where I am, because yoga for me is a lifestyle and a thing, but also yoga and wellness is a business. And I have to think about things from that aspect too. Just because I teach yoga doesn't mean that I don't see all of the other aspects of what it is. So I do appreciate that with you, because you also run it as a business.
Yeah. And I also do feel like there is an issue in the yoga world where there are so many teachers now and offering so much for free that not only does it devalue our work, but it also dilutes our profession. One of the reasons why I started Yoga Academy International was I had been traveling and teaching at festivals and doing workshops all around the world for like 4 or 5 years. And I would meet all these other yoga teachers who would come to my classes and they would say like, I've never heard of this, or I've never seen this before, or I haven't had access to a teacher like this. And it made me realize that there is such a dearth in our field for quality education. And that's where Yoga Academy was born. Was I realized like there is such a lack of great yoga education out there and access to it. And every time a subpar yoga teacher goes out into the world, it makes us all look less than. It dilutes our whole profession. And in order for us to have great access to amazing teachers and great education, the way that life works is that we have to pay for that privilege. Like money is exchanged for goods, resources, and courses. And in order for me to educate myself, I have to have the money to pay for that education. You know, I also do things like therapy and life coaching, like take therapy and work with life coaches because I want to better myself and I want to educate myself and I want to have more to offer. And therapy is expensive. It costs money. And I'm not saying to my therapist, you know, you're so great at what you do, but you're also really nice. So I think you should do your job for free. And if you don't do your job for free, obviously you're not a great therapist. And obviously you're not really for helping people. Like I would never say that to my therapist. I'm like, hey, what you do is amazing. And I feel great paying you for your great work. And that means that I have to step up to the plate and I have to earn well for my great work so that I can continue to work with you. And in doing so, I get better and I'm better for my students. And so, you know, money is the resource currently that is getting exchanged for the education. Maybe in 12 years, it will be something like flowers, or maybe it'll be something, I don't know, like groceries, and that will be fine too. And then I'm not going to say like, I want McDonald's in exchange for me teaching yoga. I still want fucking kale and I want organic kale. And I'm entitled to that. That's okay.
Yeah, and it is. Yeah.
Actually, I had a conversation actually with my therapist recently. She's so wonderful. And I also want to say this, like, you know, mental health is part of overall health. And I know that you really believe in this as well. And just like we have a checkup with a doctor once a year, even when we're feeling great, just like we go to the eye doctor or the dentist for a clean, I go to a therapist every once in a while to check in for my brain.
Yeah.
Even when I'm feeling great, every couple of months, I check in with a therapist just to keep on track with that, to clean my teeth of my brain. You know what I mean? To preventative medicine. And so I was speaking with her recently, and she knows that I'm in this, scary financial state because of COVID. And she said, if money is an issue right now, we can work something out. I want to keep working with you. And I said to her back, like, yes, money is an issue right now for me, but I also think you're worth it. And I don't want to not pay you.
Right.
Because I don't want you to feel that I think your work is not worthwhile. And she really appreciated that. And I said, so you know what, like if I have a mental health like emergency, if I really feel like I really need to talk to you and I can't afford it, I promise you I will reach out, but I don't expect you to lower your value because you know that I'm in a scary financial state right now.
I love that. And as someone, I got into the wellness industry and mainly started my first personal training company based on the idea that wellness needed to be accessible to everybody, no matter what your socioeconomic place was. But over time, I also realized the value in the work that I do now with coaching and therapy myself and all of those different things. But if someone doesn't have funds, I'm open for a discussion about it, because I also don't believe in closing the door on anyone who can't afford wellness. We can't tell people we need wellness and then close the door on it. But there does have to be that exchange in some way. There has to be that respect that we have for one another. And I think that that's something I'm really excited to see you pushing forward with within the wellness community, and myself as well, is continuing to add value back to this thing that maybe is being devalued a little bit, and sharing what it is we're doing and why we're doing it with, the monetary value that is attached to it. It isn't just for that. There's a lot that goes into it.
Totally. I have scholarships every teacher training. I offer totally free spots for people who can't afford it, because I do want to them to have the access to education. And I have an online yoga studio where like my awesome yoga academy teachers, like incredible people, a lot of them are my personal teachers, are teaching online, and we were giving away memberships for $12 a year. And at full price, it's $100 a year, which is still like very affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, $12 a year, I think is very affordable, but I also believe like giving away for free devalues us. And for some people, $12 a year is a stretch. And at least they still have access, but they also feel the value in what they're doing.
And what that is. It's so true. And I love that concept. And we also mirror it a lot with scholarships, whether it's through our full balance package. We do some addiction scholarships and different things for people that way. One way that I also balance it out is I always have two clients usually on my roster that are my where I donate my time for free. I like to have those ones because it does also add that internal balance for me that I have so many people who are paying for services, but then I do also get to give back a little bit, which makes it feel more in line with what it is that I'm doing. I'm curious, through all of this, there's a new hobby that you've picked up, I believe, and you hang from the ceiling. And I just want to know if you can share that a little bit with people, just that you've been doing in COVID, because I feel like this is a new COVID hobby that you've picked up.
This is a new COVID hobby. Do you want a little show?
Yeah, that would be amazing, actually. If you could show us, it would be fantastic.
Okay, it's right here. Okay, so this is called a lira. Now you guys see my whole living room. So this is called a lira. It's an aerial hoop.
I love this.
I basically picked it up while I was in quarantine and isolation because I was sitting at home, and like when I got back in March, it was still super winter.
Yeah.
So I wanted a way to exercise and get off my butt because I was eating like full pints of Ben & Jerry's daily, and I gained a bunch of weight, and I was feeling very sorry for myself. And I have a friend, her name is Misty Moss. She's amazing. She does burlesque hoop. And I was like so inspired. She's so beautiful. And I was like, I have beams in my house. Like, I'm going to get one of these hoops. And I couldn't even get up on it when I first got it. It took me like 2 weeks to be able to do a pull up. It's so freaking hard, but I feel so strong now. And this is a new hobby. It's called lira. It's an aerial hoop. I do get very dizzy when I do it, so I can only last for like 5 to 10 minutes at a time when I practice. The first practice I threw up because I was spinning too fast.
Perfect.
But I've gotten so strong, and it's super fun, and it makes me feel very like feminine and sexy too. So here, I'll show you how it works.
I love it.
I'm in sweatpants and everything. Let me just tuck in my shirt.
I dig it.
Where is this going to be aired, by the way?
So we're going to, I will let you know, but we're starting actually the first week of June. They're going to all start coming out, the episodes. So then we'll have 3 a week that we're releasing.
I'm just curious, am I going to be like in my sweatpants on public television?
Yeah, of course.
You just kind of like spin it and you play. So that took me 2 weeks to be able to do the like fill up, and yeah, you just kind of like play on it. Here's my bra, wonderful.
Oh my God, that actually looks very difficult.
Sexy and circusy, and you just go.
Look at you.
That's fun. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Cool. I've gotten so much stronger, and I'm not someone. Oh, great! Now my computer's running out of battery. I'm not someone who loves to work out. Like, I don't know how to go to the gym and do weights. It's just not my thing.
Okay.
And so this was a great way to.
I'm a personal trainer as well, and going to the gym and doing weights is not my thing. So it just kind of happens that way. We're just kind of getting down to the end of my time with you, Lauren. I just wanted to ask one more thing because, you know, like I said, you're such an inspirational person for me to sort of watch and just kind of hang back and watch you grow and flourish. But what is something that you would suggest for people right now in COVID who are maybe dealing with some mental health issues, mental wellness issues, and they don't really know where to go or what to do? What would be some advice that you could give for someone maybe battling that right now?
Yeah, I think isolation is real. Isolation is definitely a real thing. And, you know, the lack of finances and kind of future for a lot of people is very scary, and it can definitely weigh on your mental health. If you're feeling that way, the first thing is recognize those feelings and realize that they're okay. Like, have compassion for yourself. We all go through ups and downs in life. We all experience loneliness. We all experience feeling scared, and just the self-compassion is really important. I would also say reach out. You know, if you're feeling upset or in despair, call someone you love and express how you're feeling. And if you don't feel comfortable talking about it to someone you know, then I would also recommend reaching out to a therapist or mental health counselor. Even just calling your doctor. In Canada, we are so blessed to have free healthcare. And if you're not feeling okay mentally, you can call a free clinic or call your doctor and say, I'm not okay, help me. Mm-hmm. There is no shame in asking for help and in reaching out. I also have a free meditation for isolation and loneliness. It's on YouTube. Just look up Yoga Academy International on YouTube and you can find that. And read books and listen to podcasts that make you feel not just better, but also connected. I think humans, we really want to feel like other people are feeling the same as us and other people are experiencing the same as us. We want to know that we're not alone. And it's hard when we're isolated. And so just hearing other people's stories that make us feel less alone is really important. And reaching out and also like accepting that life is really fucked up right now and we're in a kind of a scary place. Accept it and then find ways to move forward. For me, it was this like aerial hoop that really helped me feel better because I was sitting on the couch all day feeling sorry for myself. And then suddenly I had a new kind of exercise and it was making me so much stronger. You know, so maybe now is a time to develop new hobbies, whether that's making puzzles or greeting cards or, you know, online Pilates, whatever it is, you know, realize that this is a new normal. And so it's time to reflect and reassess. And it's an opportunity really to do the things that we've always wanted to do. Like me being grounded in Kingston right now has been so beautiful. A friend of mine has a backyard and she's never done anything with it. And she works from home all day. And I asked her like, hey, can I clean up your garden? And she was like, yeah. Her garden was neglected for like 10 or 15 years. And I started like just weeding and picking it apart. And all this beautiful stuff is growing. Like someone had cared about this garden a long time ago, but then it was neglected. And she sits at home and she works from inside. So, you know, we're socially distanced. She works inside and I do this garden. And then I was like, hey, can I dig a pond? You have all these rocks. I started, as I was cleaning up the garden, I was digging up all these rocks. I was like, can I dig a pond? Because we have all these rocks. And she was like, okay, like she just doesn't care. And so
Just do you.
I like dug a pond at her house. I also love manual labor. It's like sickening. And then I built her a deck as like a surprise. Turns out it's extremely easy and cheap to build a deck. I don't know if you know this.
I love that.
I did it on pallets, which are free. Yep. And so if you're listening and you want to build a deck, by the way, it's summertime. Pallets are free at Home Depot. And then you can buy the deck wood. It's $6 a piece, and you just drill it in. But anyway, so that's actually been really beautiful. It's like trying new things and taking up new hobbies. Obviously, I'm lucky that I have a friend with a yard who doesn't care what I do with it. But just finding new ways and new interests to keep yourself busy, because also part of what's hard is that as humans, we need to be stimulated. And we're not able to be stimulated socially as much right now. And for some of us, we're not able to be stimulated intellectually in our job. So now's the time to learn a new skill or read a book, learn a new language, pick up guitar. And definitely reach out. And again, there's so many resources out there. There's also that helpline. I think you can text 686868.
Oh, okay.
It's a mental health line.
I love that.
So, I mean, there are resources out there, and there are free resources. And I think the biggest thing is not to be ashamed and recognize, like, I'm not okay right now. I'm not feeling my best, and make a call. And you don't have to be at the depths of despair or self-harming to reach out for help. Like, if you've had 3 or 4 days in a row where you're feeling a little bit off, call someone. And if you don't want to call a friend or family member, call your doctor. That's what they're there for. And we are blessed in Canada to have free healthcare.
It's so true. And if anyone's looking to follow along with you, Lauren, where can they find you? What is the information that we can give them to chase you down?
Thanks. So you can find me personally at Lauren Rudick. On Instagram is my biggest platform. Be aware, there are some nudes out there. I just like being free-spirited in nature. People think I do this for like attention or like something like that, but it's like been since I was a kid. Like I was always the naked kid. Oh my gosh. I went to summer camp as a kid, and I used to orchestrate like naked parties in my bunk. I'm like, let's all just run around naked! And my counselors had to have like a talking to with my parents. Like, you know, your daughter encourages everybody to run around naked all the time. And they were like, yeah, that's just who she is. So now I do it on Instagram. Free parents. So yeah, I mean, if nudity is offensive, don't go to my personal Instagram, which is Lauren Rudick. Go to my school Instagram, which is all about yoga and no nudity. And it's more than just photos of me. It's my students as well. So you can find me at Lauren Rudick on Instagram, Facebook, and my website, laurenrudick.com. Or you can go to my school, which is Yoga Academy International, on Facebook or Instagram, or the website, yogaacademyinternational.com. Oh, and we are both on YouTube, both myself and Yoga Academy. So you can find Yoga Academy International on YouTube as well. And there's lots of free resources on YouTube. We have like free meditations and quickie free classes. And if you want longer full-length classes and more in-depth information about yoga and wellness and philosophy, at yogaacademyinternational.com, we have an online studio as well, and it's very affordable.
I love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate every moment I get to land with you. You always give me a perspective that I haven't thought of that's really beautiful to incorporate and just see it from that way. So please just never stop being you and doing what it is you're doing. We're also lucky within this community to have you, and just within the yoga community to have you. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you for welcoming me with open arms. You've really made me feel at home in the wellness and yoga community in Kingston. And I really, really appreciate that.
I'm so glad. And we'll talk soon. Have a wonderful afternoon, whatever you do. And keep putting up videos of that hoop, because I think I'm going to try it. I think I'm going to try it.
Yeah, try it. We can meet in a park, and I can bring it and we'll spray down with alcohol or something.
I love that. Okay, I'll message you. We'll set it up.
Oh, yeah, it's fun. You're going to love it.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Another great talk with Lauren. I love getting every opportunity that I have to connect with this human being on so many levels, both in a yogic way and how I kind of look up to her and what it is that she does there, but just a human to human way. And as a business woman also, I find her so inspiring. So thank you again, Lauren, for joining us. We'll talk to everybody soon. Have a great rest of your day. Okay, bye.